quick word about September. Next month, our program, our speaker will be an in-person guest. Her name is Camille Giamatti. Camille is a member of the Fresno County Genealogical Society. And her program will be a story of sorts that warns you and whoever might be delving deep into their family's past that activity might bring up more than what you expect. Camille's program is titled Prohibition, Graft, and Grandfathers. So if you fill in the spaces, you might have an idea of what it's about. Also, our after meeting refreshment sign up for 2025 is complete. So I do have a calendar for next year. We do have a couple of openings for after meeting refreshments on there. So if you would like to show off your culinary skills, there's a chance to do that. Our speaker tonight joins us via Zoom from her home office. An archivist, librarian, and genealogist, Nancy Lowe has been helping researchers with their family trees since 1977. She specializes in U.S. and European family history research, presenting webinars and at conferences in the U.S., Canada, and Australia, including NGS and RootsTech. We last heard from Nancy back in February of this year. She presented a program on effective strategies to organize your research and link digital and paper records. So now that you all have that done, tonight she takes, we'll skip over that. Tonight, she takes on the process of yet another step of organizing your genealogical research and that of family photos. On the surface, the process may seem complex, but they defy organizing. Let me not give you everything away in here. By the way, Nancy has genealogy ebooks and a free monthly newsletter. Information on both are on the are through her website, and information on that for the address for her website is on your handout program. So now, with her program cataloging digital family photos, please join me in welcoming via Zoom Nancy Lowe.
Hi, everyone. I'm really delighted that technology is bringing us together again and finally cooperating. Technology doesn't always do what we want. Am I right? So I'm assuming you can hear me well and that you can see my screen. If not, if you could let people know in chat, that would be great. And I will plunge forward. And ironically, this is kind of a technologically related presentation. But the mysteries of Zoom are one thing. The benefits of what you can do with your family photos are another. So this evening, what we're going to do is talk about 5 different areas. One is just essential terms that you need to know to understand digital technology. Best practices when you are scanning or downloading records and photos, and organizing those files using software that helps you catalog your photos and makes them searchable. And that's where we're going to focus for the 4th part of our talk together tonight, and that is adding this information inside images. And then I have a little sermon on data security and backing up your work that I think you've probably already heard, but someone will have to help me up on the soapbox and back down again, because I'm still going to talk about making sure all of your hard work is secure. So after the presentation tonight, which again is fairly technologically oriented, you have the handout. You can always come to my website. My blog isn't as active anymore, but you can certainly sign up for my newsletter if you haven't already. It went out this morning for August. And then there is an ebook, which really kind of extends the consultation we're having this evening, more step-by-step directions. And before we actually dive into the nuts and bolts, I think that this is a worthwhile investment of your genealogical time if you have large collections, if you have complex records in your family tree, because you can use it for both photos and documents. You can use specific software. So the screenshots you're going to see about cataloging photos come from Adobe Photoshop Elements, which we will talk about, and another program that I use called Graphic Converter. And this is my dad. I think every one of us has a family photo that is very precious to them. And I like doing this presentation just because I get to show you how cute my dad was. And my grandmother made that whole outfit for him. So be thinking of your family photos and records and ways that you can apply what we're going to talk about tonight. So the first part is pretty painless. We're going to talk about when people say that they have digitized something, it means they have scanned it and the technology creates zeros and ones. Sometimes you hear scanning talked about as binary and also as digital. And this to me, I don't understand how any of the people who know all of this and coded it um, did this. I think it's amazing we can be together tonight in such a live way. Um, but for our purposes and for what you're doing at home that used to cost, uh, a lot of money to buy all the software and the scanners and things, we're talking, five figures. And now you can do this at home too. But when you're scanning something, there's something called pixels. Every square in this capital H letter is a zero or a one. And you can't see it. And again, we don't need to understand how they do it, but this is basically the foundation. And what this means is every time a capital H appears on your screen, whether you're in Word or you're at Ancestry or Find My Past or emailing someone, there are something called picture elements, pixels, and those are these little squares and they comprise images. And then we're going to talk, and I promise this is all the technology you're going to need. There's something called metadata, and we're going to go into that so you will understand it. But metadata is just information about information. In other words, captioning, tagging, all those kinds of things. So if you combine pixels and metadata with the file format that always is displayed after a period, then that makes up a digital image. And again, it's just mind-blowing to me that many people have figured this out. So when you're scanning something, the size of the file that you're creating depends on the resolution that you're scanning at. Now, people don't talk about PPI anymore. I should take this screen out, but originally DPI, or the resolution, how many dots per inch, were for inkjet printers and how many dots of ink they were going to squirt on a piece of paper to print out whatever it is you told your printer to produce. And PPI was how many pixels you saw on the screen. And I don't think, not even Hewlett Packard or any of the big printer companies talk about PPI anymore. So DPI is the shorthand for the resolution that you scan at. The lower the resolution, the poorer the quality, but the smaller the file. The higher the resolution, the better the quality. So if I took this postcard and told my scanner to scan at 300 DPI, it would, and it's a 6-inch postcard, it would make 1,800 of those little tiny pixels. And for the vertical part of this, which is 4 inches, it would make 1,200 pixels. And you combine those two together, and that would give you the size of the file. And we all know from working online on our family history research that there are lots of different digital file formats. The most popular one for images, again, anything that you've scanned or usually downloaded that's a photo. TIFF is going to be the most desirable. If you've already scanned something, you can convert it from whatever you scanned it as, probably a JPEG, and convert it to TIFF. This is kind of the gold standard. It's the most stable of all the digital file formats. A GIF is something that, like, if your kids or grandkids send you something and the image moves, that's what a GIF is. JPEG is the one we're all familiar with. It was kind of the earliest format. And then PNG is something that, again, is a higher resolution. It's kind of in between a TIFF and a JPEG, and it's used a lot on websites. So that's all the technology that will help you catalog your family photos. And now we're going to talk about downloading records that you find, scanning family photos or records that you already have. And I'm going to interrupt myself right now because if I don't open a window, I might smother. I usually close them because jets like to take off right over our house. So downloads and scans. If you're downloading something, it means someone, somewhere, sometime scanned that image for you. I would like to think these hunky French guys and their, it's probably a scanner that, costs easily mid 6 figures. I would like them to, fly over, bring that scanner with them, and take care of everything that I still need to scan. But think about this. Someone scanned for you every time you find something online and you download it. If you're scanning, it means you're the one doing the work, and it can be lonely. But I think there are some suggestions I have that will help speed it up. But first, I want to talk about types of scanners that are out there. In your handout, there's a URL that will take you to a blog post I have written on scanners for genealogical research. And I do it this way because the scanners change over time. And this way I can stay current and recommend the latest models instead of having to go in and change a lot of different slides. So there's a portable scanner. I don't know if your mother was like mine, but she did not want to let go of anything. And so I bought a portable scanner. It came in a nice little cardboard carrying case. It's very lightweight and it runs, it's powered right off of your laptop. And we flew to Chicago and we drove out to her house and we were visiting and I just started taking pictures right off the wall and scanning them. And it's really great. It's also something now that libraries have opened up again and archives, if they permit it, This is the kind of thing that it would be light enough that you could take it with you to any kind of institution that would let you do scanning on site. It's also very reasonably priced. Then there is something called a flatbed scanner, and these are usually legal sized, and you buy ones that can scan at a minimum of 300 DPI or PPI. These kinds of scanners are really important if you have a lot of family photos that you're scanning. A dedicated scanner, instead of the one that came with your multi-function printer, is going to produce better quality. When the lockdown started with COVID, online, the price of this went up to something like $650 because it was like this light bulb went off all over the country and said, wow, I could sit at home and get scanning done. So I don't recommend that you pay that much. This one does go on sale from time to time. And another advantage of having a dedicated scanner is that it usually comes with software that helps you enhance images and OCR, or optical character recognition. When you scan a book, it has software that will make a transcript for you. You'll have to go in and clean up, some mistakes, but it's much faster than typing something. This is best, again, if you have a lot of photos, negatives, slides, transparencies, and you want to do this yourself. And then there's something that in the archives business we used to call a planetary scanner. It just means that the camera for this is in this arm of this device. And again, this is the kind of technology that used to, cost quite a bit. And now they have sales on these all the time. And if you're contemplating buying yourself either a dedicated scanner or you have a lot of books, because that's what this is for, um, you can always watch the prices at Amazon is primarily where you're going to find this. So this is faster than a flatbed. If you think about a flatbed or even a photocopier, you see that bar of light going across. All this really is a digital camera right here and the software that lets you take a picture and then it again flattens the curves. The software that come with this helps you again read optical characters. But it's really best if you only have a lot of printed or handwritten materials. It doesn't do a good job with photos at all. So here is the URL. You can also just Google scanners for genealogy research, and my blog post with specific models will come up. So before we move on to the next part of the presentation, and you can use chat, I think, if you like. The reason why I want you to scan as TIFF files is because you can scan once and then you can make lower resolution files or do whatever it is that you want. We all have such backlogs that you really only want to be scanning one time. So I'm going to give you a minute and I want you to tell me which is the JPEG and which is the TIFF file. And again, I'm going to say that, have you noticed that Ancestry lately, if you upload a photo into the gallery of a person, it has a sharpen feature? I don't know how they're doing it. It's probably AI. It's like a wizard kind of thing because usually a pixel is a pixel. And if you scanned at a low resolution, there was no way to enhance it. I hope that this comes out into, the marketplace so that we can all be sharpening images that were not so good. So if everyone has had a chance to think about this, the TIFF file is the one on the bottom right, and the JPEG is the one on the left. And again, the only difference is that this TIFF format is more stable and it records more detail. If you look at, like, we can really see how much gray this guy has over. If you look at the bride's hair, I mean, I think the more you look at this, the blurry parts are because a JPEG is not saving as much information as a TIFF. Another thing that you can do when you are scanning at home and you have a flatbed, because you would never, ever, ever drag a handheld scanner over an image, that's very bad. And you would not send it through a sheet feeder, that's also very bad for the originals. So let's say again, you have a pretty sizable collection of family photos. You can do something called gang scanning. In other words, cram as many images as you can onto that flat bed. And as long as you leave white space around them, you can do one scanning pass, and then the software cuts it into 5 different images. It used to be that you would do this and then you would have to crop and save each one individually, and now it just does it. It's really cool. When you're online, um, Ancestry used to have 2 resolutions for their records, and it was kind of not very obvious. And today, again, I think it's advances in servers and computing capacity, all of those good things, that you get a good quality image at most of the commercial websites, if the original was in good shape. But when you're out on other research sites, usually ones from libraries, archives, government agencies, Wikimedia is another one, you will be given a choice to download what size you want the image to be, what resolution. And always, always choose the largest one you can find, because again, you can always go down in resolution and quality, but going up is something that is not yet available to we mortals. So for those of you who attended in February when we talked about this, the family photos folder was the 3rd folder in my organizing system. I did, if you're legacy family tree members, I did that at Legacy Family Tree early July. So there's a recording there where they give me a little more time to talk about things. But this is the 3rd folder in my organizing system. And I tend to divide things up, first of all, between the quick and the dead. In other words, pictures of headstones are kind of segregated. And we put those in one folder. And then we all have wonderful, I hope, family photos. I did have a client once, and her family lost their home, and her father died in a flood, and she has almost no images of him anymore. So when you're looking at that mountain of stuff to be scanned, be happy, uh, because I think of people who don't have many photos at all. So for the pictures of living people, I tend to divide them into 3 things: events like weddings, reunions, birthday parties. Those all can go in one folder. And then I also, in the course of my research, look for images of places where my family lived. And I can do research using Google Earth, using Google period, and sometimes discover exactly where a place is. And so this family photos folder And then the subfolder for places are pictures that you have where you know what the location is, and identifying them this way helps your research. And then everything else can go into a very broad surname folder. And I'm always asked this. Again, we're going to talk about ways for you to add a lot of information to images, but for your sorting purposes, make sure that you only do a rough sort. Yes, there are probably going to be lots of photos with people with 3, 4, 5 different surnames. Take the predominant one or the one that's closest as a relative to you and slot those under surnames. So the places folder that I was talking about, I use the surname of the person and the place. So this is my Norwegian uh, ancestors. These are Austrians who moved from Austria to Chicago, and these are pictures of them in these places. I have pictures of my grandmother working at a sweatshop when she looks about 15 years old, and I'm just so thrilled that I have a photo of. There aren't as many. Maybe if you come from farming families, you have more family photos that are on site or at work. So that's how I divide these up. And then that last folder, again, is your surname folder, very rough sort, very broad, the predominant people in the photo or the ones that you're closest in relationship to. So I promised you this would be simple. So when you're doing your scanning, I want you to think about this workflow and then set it up. Except this is why I wish I were in Tulare with all of you, because I would never do that to you. I would never recommend this, but I think it's useful to pause for a moment and again, think about the archivists, the librarians, the people who work at large genealogical sites or small ones um, who are doing all of this work to not just scan something, but to add information to it that makes it retrievable. Every single image you see at a subscription site has had something like this happen to it. Every single image you find online at a library or in archives has had something like this happen to it. And all we're going to do is simplify this because you don't need to pay attention to all these protocols and schemas. You just need to understand metadata and how it works. And metadata is a TV dinner, okay? Um, I suppose the day is coming where I won't have anyone out in audiences who know what a TV dinner is, or at least one like this. But the pixels, those little squares of black and white or color, are really the entree. They are the turkey in your TV dinner. They take up most of the size in an image. And then the mashed potatoes really are things all about the camera or the scanner and where you were and, GPS and all those kinds of things. If we were camera enthusiasts, this would be the most important metadata. But we are family historians. We are the archivists of our family history. And so we are the P's. And this is where you can insert information about an image into a scan. And I'll just stop and say again, metadata is data about data. Tonight, when you sit down to watch TV and you decide to watch a rerun of Downton Abbey, and you press the program guide on your remote, and a band shows up on your screen and it says, this is season 3, episode 6. Here is the title. Here are the stars. Here's the year this was filmed. Here are all the actors. who were in this episode. Here's how long it is. That is metadata, and you use metadata every day. And that's why I think it's going to be exciting when you're able to apply metadata. You're very able to turn the information you know about an image into metadata and catalog a photo. So, as I said before, the image pixels are the entree. EXIP is the name of the metadata for all that information about the camera and the hardware and then how many f-stops and all those kinds of things. And IPTC is where you can put text that becomes searchable about an image. So metadata inserted into your image is just like when you hit the program guide. It's data about data because seeing all that information about what you're about to watch isn't the program itself, it's data about the data in the program. So image pixels, again, are usually the largest part of any scan or download. EXIP, camera exposure, all of that is Greek to me. But IPTC is what really shines. You can add captions or tags or dates or places or names. Who gave you this photo? Who took this photo? Anything that you know about an image. And if TV dinners are not a happy memory, you can think of this as a sandwich. And again, the actual pixels that make up the image are the largest part. And then the captions, tags, dates, any information or data about this data is the IPTC that we're interested in. Rights and licensing. This is where I tell you that this is actually IPTC is fairly old technology, and it began when newspapers in the 1930s were able to wire images to each other. And IPTC stands for International Press Telecommunications. So let's say that, let's see, the Hindenburg, crashed and it's burning up, and your newspaper photographer got there and took important pictures. And then all the other papers, in other countries or the rest of the United States want that image. And they had the technology to send it over a wire. And that's when they invented this metadata because they wanted to be able to be credited for this. And whoops, let me go back. So let's say the Chicago Tribune photographer got this picture of a bank robbery. Then they would be able to have used international press telecommunications standards to put all that information in that image that was being wired. And here it is, almost 100 years later, the technology has changed, but the concept has not. And so that's why this is called IPTC. And this is where you can add searchable surnames, events, dates, locations into digital files. The software that you use can read all of this and respond to searches, and it's not visible on the image. So all you need to do at this point is find image management software that supports IPTC metadata. The standout in this field is Photoshop Elements, which we talked about a few minutes ago. It's available both on Mac and Windows platforms. You used to be able to buy it and not buy it again for an upgrade for like 5 years because all they would do is move the buttons to annoy you. Uh, but Adobe, of course, makes this and is always looking for a way to extract more cash from all of us. So now Photoshop Elements is available on a 3-year license. And I think they do have sales, but they tend to be rare, maybe Black Friday, those kinds of things. So graphic converter is shareware, essentially. It's a man in Germany who is obsessed with all of this. It only works on a Mac, but it supports IPTC. OrphanView is something you may have seen if you worked at a family search library or center. And it is for Windows and uses a plugin in a browser. Newer open source software is being developed, but again, I think it's much harder to use and understand. And I would ask you at this point, and questions when we used to do this in person. Picasa, Flickr, and other online companies are great for sharing images. They are not great for cataloging images. And if you have all of your family photos in, you know, a third party like this, the potential, in fact, years ago, this is probably 15 years ago, someone at Flickr accidentally deleted someone's account, except for she was a professional wedding photographer and she had all of her work in Flickr. And they were like, well, we're sorry. And you kind of had to live, life according to their rules, all those long licenses that we agree to. And there was such an uproar that they worked very hard, and I think they got maybe 30, 40% of her images back. So when you are using online companies, you are putting all of your trust in them and letting them call the shots. Use it by all means to share images with family members or other researchers, but don't use it to house your entire photo library. And this is also when people say, well, I use photo properties because I'm on Windows, or Mac people say, I use Get Info, and you can open this up and you can put little things in there and, um, people's names and all the things you were just talking about. And I also would recommend that you don't do this because of two things. First of all, it's not searchable. It doesn't turn that image into anything but an image named whatever you named it. And secondly, as operating systems upgrade, and that's what both of these are, you could lose the information that you put in there because, again, it's not the purpose of Get Info or photo properties to catalog and make your photos searchable. So let's use my Swedish great-grandmother and her children as our metadata guinea pigs. And every single person changed their name, even my grand uncle Ernie. He decided he didn't like the spelling of the surname, so he changed it. And I have his baptism and his birth record where he was Max Ernst, and no one, believe me, ever called him Max. So metadata lets us talk about all of this information we have and insert it into this image. I did enough research on this, it's a bigger image, that I figured out the address. And from the ages of her children, I think this is maybe 1911, 1912. So if you scan this and you just say, I'm going to put everything I remember about this right here in the file name, first of all, it's again not retrievable. Your your folders are going to look scary. You used to not even be able to have more than, I think it was 8 characters in a file name. It's just, again, another way to try to use a file name which is not designed to be a cataloging device. So you open up Photoshop Elements, you go to the folder, mine is that number 3 in my system, and I keep everything in Dropbox too. So I go into my master folder, and then I go into my family photo folder, And then I go into those surnames, the ones that we did a rough sort for. And from there, I can start cataloging. It will grow in intelligence. You can say, this is my sort. This is that rough sort. And this is, again, my Chicago Swedes, and all the different photos I have about them. And so I can say as much or as little as I like about any of these images. And what I'm about to show you is I'm including a lot of information about one image so I can show you capabilities. I don't think any of us would have time to catalog at this level. You can do batch entry of metadata. But again, this is all about um, being able to add that information. So here we are in Photoshop Elements in the editor part, which is where you manage the metadata. And this is the one place you can use file info. And the best part of all is there's also facial recognition. So when I was cataloging this photo, and as you can see, I cropped some of it, so this is an after image. This happened to be the 15th Han family photo I had scanned. And I scanned it as a TIFF at a high resolution, so I only have to scan it once. I know who took this. It was my great-grandaunt, Hedda. And I could write a caption or a description. I can add keywords. I can add, again, as much or as little as I desire. And you can make surnames into keywords, locations into keywords. And here are all these different screens that you can open up. And the best part is you don't have to use all of them. You don't even have to use a lot of them. You just can use a few. So when I went into the caption setting in the software, I said, this is the Han family and it's clockwise from this point, blah, blah, blah. And we know that this was the name of the file. Then I moved on to keywords and I put in those surnames and the different spellings and the location. And I also put in their names separated by semicolons so that those are searchable too. And then from there, I was able to add, I think this is about 1912. It was Chicago. It was Marshfield Avenue. And again, I'm not suggesting that this is the depth you would go to. I'm just trying to show you features. So then it maps. It used GPS, and I'm happy to say the house is still there. It narrowly missed the freeway here. Um, so if you have something that precise, it will take it right down to the location. If you only know a town, it will still map the town for you. And then the facial recognition prompts begin as it begins learning about your family photos. And again, this is an example of AI from long before it was talked about so much. So just like metadata that you've been using in your daily life, you've also been using AI. So it will start prompting you and say, is this Anna Schumann? And you say, yes, it is. This is Anna Schumann too. And here is my grand aunt Frida. And once I put those in there, it's going to start looking through all the photos in my family photos folder and suggesting more prompts. So again, when we look at our metadata guinea pigs, it prompted me and said, is this Louise Hahn? And I clicked and said, yes. And here's Anna, and here's Frida, and here's Ernie. And it takes all of that and digests it and uses it to help you with your other photos. After you've invested all this time, you get to search using this software by virtually any bit of information you put in the metadata fields that we just talked about, in the type of media that this is, a caption that you wrote, people's names, anything that was tagged. And that is why we do this. To be able to say, show me every photo of Frida Han Low, and it starts bringing them up. And there we are. Again, I'm still in awe of people who figured out how to do it. All we have to do is figure out how to use it for our purposes. And that brings us to that soapbox of mine, data security. I want to encourage all of you. You know how many hours and money you've invested in doing your family history research. And if you only have an online tree, it's the same thing as only keeping your family photos in Flickr or Picasa. And at any point, you're subject to their rules. So I am hoping, just as I said in February, that when you find a record or you scan a photo, you are organizing it. That's important, but you're also backing it up. And it's so easy and so cheap to do it these days. There's just really no reason not to. And in order to do this, all you have to do is get a local external hard drive. And built into the Mac operating system is an application called Time Machine. Into Windows, I believe it is still called File History. And you take that hard drive that you got at Costco or Best Buy or Amazon, and the software will come with it, but I recommend using the one that comes with your operating system. And then it says, where do you want to save this? In Windows, it says, look at this new drive you attached. Do you want me to use that? And you say yes. And then, because we live in we can't predict the future, and we certainly can't predict what disasters may befall our data, all the research that we've done. So you have a hybrid approach. Yes, you have that local external drive with all of your records and photos and trees and all that good stuff, but you also have a cloud account. And companies, CrashPlan, Carbonite, Backblaze happens to be the one I use, puts all of this split up into different servers all over the world, and they make redundant copies of all of your information. And this way, if your house disappears in a flood, if I had a woman come up to me and say she had been robbed, and they took her computer and they also took her backup drive. And that convinced her that she needed this 1-2 punch here. And she got a cloud account after that. And again, the prices on these have just come down so dramatically. For, I think it's less than $10 a month, I pay Backblaze to back up my whole computer. And, all our medical records and our finances and all my family history research is safe in 2 different locations. And again, a cloud is just a figure of speech for different places all around the world where companies like CrashPlan and Backblaze have giant server farms and they back up your stuff. And then if you ever need it, it says, okay, which date and time would you like to get all of your data back? So, as I said, this is a pretty technological presentation. I'm glad Zoom cooperated. I'm more than happy to answer questions. I can't really see any, so I'll be depending on a host to do that. And again, let's open it up for questions. If you do want more step-by-step instructions on this and links to different things, this is the ebook, and there's a 15% off photo code. If you use this, it's available for that sum of money. So, how are we doing? Do we have to wake anybody up? Do we have to wake everybody up?
Question, yeah, if I wanna see metadata that's been.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm going to need somebody to repeat what your question is nearer to a microphone, because right now I can't hear.
Yeah, it just needs to get closer to the computer. I'm gonna have to get up now.
Just tell me what your question is.
Oh, if I wanna see the metadata on a picture, how do I get to just that metadata?
Her question is, if she would like to find or see the metadata on a picture that she has right now, how can she access that?
She can turn it on in the software that I was showing you. And you can send this to other people as long as they have the same software. They can open it up and see things too. Some people I know for years have kind of written up their own caption, typed it up, and then scanned it and added it at the bottom so you'd always be able to see things. But you can print these out or send them to other people, and as long as they have whatever software you used, they can see all the information.
Questions?
The software she's talking about, is that like the Photoshop elements and the graphic converter? Is that what she's talking about?
The software that you're referring to, are you talking about the
Photoshop elements?
Yes,
Photoshop and
yes, I'm talking about this software
Got it.
right here. This is the latest version. They come out with one every year. Fortunately, you know, they've changed the licensing. I used to go 5 years in between buying an upgrade, and now they're kind of forcing us to do, you know, repay them for a new license every 3 years now. But this is the software. It's $99 when it's not on sale, and I've seen it as low as $79.
Shut up, man.
okay, any other questions? I think you've done a job, Nancy, at the no other questions, so. Thank you.
Well, you know, when like these practical skills ones that I've done in February and tonight, it can be a lot to digest. And so my hope for all of you is that there was something useful you can take away from our time together tonight. If you are thinking about embarking on a big project to scan and catalog your family photos, these are my best recommendations. So, and again, there is no way. I mean, the cobbler's children always need shoes, right? There's no way that I have cataloged family photos at this level of detail. Just getting, you know, surnames on most of them makes me very, very happy because then they're retrievable. So thank you again for inviting me, and perhaps next year we can look at a meeting in person.
Thank you.